All right, we're going to be doing a little lesson here on rhythm guitar skills. The first thing we need to do is talk about divisions of time. For the purposes of what we're doing, which is going to be playing in 4/4 time or 3/4 or any of the basic meters, the quarter note is going to be one beat. Now we've got our metronome going here in the background. That's that clicking sound that's probably driving you nuts at the moment. And that's going to be our quarter note. All right. So whatever you're doing with this exercise, I want you to tap your foot on this. The most important thing is that we internalize this pulse. If we get this pulse internalized, then what's going to happen is that we're always going to know where we are time-wise, and everything else that we play against it is going to be a division. It's going to be equally felt and equally subdivided within that beat. All right. So for right now, we're just going to be playing quarter notes with it. I'm just playing a G chord. Any chord will do. But the idea here is that we're feeling the quarter note with our foot. We're going to strum down. And we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. When we do our first subdivision here, these are going to be eighth notes, and an eighth note is half of a beat. So with this click going, we're still tapping our foot down on the metronome click. And what we're going to count the first half, or what we call the downbeat, as the number 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the upbeat, which is the second half of the beat, which is in between metronome clicks, is and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Your foot still tapping down on the downbeats is coming up on the upbeats. Now there's two kinds of eighth note feels that we can do. The first one is going to be all down strums on these eighth notes. Right, so we're going to be doing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, with the open chord, it's not too exciting. If I'm playing something like more like a Ramones-y kind of thing, or if I'm playing like a blues, where everything has to be driving and kind of push that eighth note feel, I'll play it more like this with the straight down strums, or if something's building volume. If I want it to be more open, though, versus I'm sure you've kind of felt and heard the difference between the two directions. The alternating strum, to me, feels more bigger and more open. The straight down strum is going to feel a little bit more urgent and pushed. And it's not really, in time it should be the same thing. It's just that hitting all those, the down strums on the bass string is going to kind of give it more of a dun 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 kind of feel. Right. So that's the first thing. And I've got other lessons on how to count eighth notes and all this other stuff. But what I want to do is just kind of give you a real basic primer on strumming. Right. So we've got quarter notes, which is just one strum per click. We have eighth notes, which is 2, and count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now the next subdivision is going to be triplets, and we're not really going to worry about triplets right now, just because we're dealing more with strumming. But a triplet is where we've got 3 eighth notes per beat, so we count 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet. For the purposes of this lesson, we're going to skip over that. We'll come back to that for different feels, like if we're playing in 12/8 or 6/8 or something like that. The next one, which is kind of where the money is in this lesson, is going to be 16th notes. Now, it's very rare when I play anything 16th notes as all down strums. You kind of do that sort of feel. For me, most 16th note stuff is kind of an open kind of deal. And we're going to keep the arm going. Now, the most important thing about all these feels is that we always have to keep the time going. When you start a piece of music, typically, if you're playing with a metronome, count a few measures with the metronome and feel where that quarter note is before you start. My favorite analogy is the idea of there being a set of railroad tracks. And if a train's going by at 20 miles an hour, theoretically, you can get on that train without it stopping. But if you reach out and grab the train, it's going to rip your arm off. If you run alongside the train, you can go the same speed as it. You can jump up on it without too much damage. And that's kind of what happens with this. When you're playing with the band, and say the drummer or another person in the band actually counts it off, feel it. All right? Get feeling that quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then when you're actually starting, you're actually in time. Right? If you just try and jump in on something, chances are you're going to musically get your arm ripped off. Right? So with the 16th notes, we're doing that. We want to make sure that we're feeling the time, but we're also going to be keeping this right hand going. Now, if you're doing the 8th note feel, like the alternating, 1. In the 8th note lesson that I did, I kind of talked about actually keeping that arm consistent. Even when you're not strumming something, never letting it stop. And keeping those subdivisions going is real important. With the 16th notes, it's even more important. Right? Now, 16th note is a quarter of a beat. So we're going to count 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a. All right. If I was playing something like real, you kind of see, like, even though you can't see my foot tapping, you see my core moving, right? I'm feeling that quarter note, but my right hand, regardless of what the rhythm is, keeps it moving. You don't see that hand stop anywhere in that rhythm. If I was playing like a funk thing, or with all those holes in it, and syncopations, all that other stuff, the right hand doesn't look any different than when I was strumming the open chord thing. And the idea is that that 16th note feel is consistent even when I'm not playing. You have to be responsible for every quarter note subdivision. Every slice of time has to be going through there in your body before you can play any of that stuff in time. And this is one of the biggest issues I have with a lot of my students, is just getting them to feel that time consistently. All right, so a good exercise, right, is tap your foot with a quarter note. I'm actually going to slow this down a little bit to make it a little bit easier for everybody. This is at 60. So we're going to count 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2. All I'm doing is I'm muting the strings. All right, and I'm trying to make sure that what I'm doing doesn't speed up, slow down, and I'm not going like, you know, where I'm actually strumming harder on the down strum than the up strum, or vice versa. We're just trying to keep this nice and consistent, almost accent free. Now, if I was to play, now I'm doing is I'm playing an E7 sharp 9 chord. I'm trying to keep, no matter what I'm doing, I'm trying to keep that right hand consistent, whether I'm strumming the chords. And the thing is about rhythms like this, where I'm going from the chord strumming to this muted thing, is that my right hand, I never think of that as playing the rhythm. It's playing every rhythm, every subdivision. 1 E and a 2 E, all that is going there. This hand stays the same. The idea with this is that my left hand is doing the strumming. With my students, a lot of times they want to strum, you know, they're trying to beat the heck out of those notes because they feel like this hand is doing all the work. But what happens when they overemphasize that stuff and they underemphasize the stuff that we're not hearing, it throws them out of time. So the idea here with this is just get used to the right hand being very consistent and not stopping, right? Even like if you're playing things where the, you can see my hands moving even though I'm holding that chord out, or even I'm going, and I'm feeling time in a couple different places. My foot is going on the quarter note with the metronome, and I'm playing all those 16th note subdivisions with the right hand. But what's happening is the only place that I'm really doing anything specific is my left hand, is where I'm squeezing the chord. We're going to talk a little bit more about rhythm guitar stuff in the future, in future lessons. But all I wanted to do was talk about subdivisions of time and keeping that hand going like that.